This is purely a journalistic point of view. Nothing more has been said in this video other than that of which has been reported by various media sources and backed up with sources seen at the end of this video.
Although Eddie Guerrero was named Latino Heat, his nickname could have been the Phoenix, due to his amazing resurrection from the ashes of a broken body and broken career. Years of substance abuse played havoc on his body, nearly costing him his life and ending his wrestling career. However, a spectacular recovery would see Guerrero not only return to the WWE, but reach unparalleled heights. Sadly, Guerrero's return was not to last, as he died at the young age of 38. Questions still persist as to what happened to someone who had seemingly turned the corner of his life. Join us now as Behind the Titantron examines the final days of Eddie Guerrero. Eddie was the youngest member of the Guerrero wrestling family. He was the son of legendary luchador Gory Guerrero, who was credited with inventing the camel clutch and the gory special backbreaker. Thus, he knew wrestling was in his future. Eddie's siblings were much older than him, and in his memoir, Eddie recalls how Chavo Guerrero Sr., who was 19 years older than Eddie, acted more like a father than an older brother, and taught him more about wrestling than their father Gory. The mischievous Eddie was nicknamed Chilaquil by one of his uncles, a reference to the spicy Mexican dish chilaquiles, because Eddie was a quote-unquote pain in the ass. Eddie wrestled in high school, and when he was 16, his brothers Hector and Chavo invited him to live with them in Florida for the summer. The Guerreros were wrestling for Eddie Graham's Championship Wrestling from Florida promotion. He enjoyed his summer there, where he got to taste the camaraderie of wrestling, and of course the parties. Unfortunately, the parties were to become an unhealthy lifestyle for Eddie. Debuting on the 27th of June 1987 as Eddie Guerrero, the second-generation star worked as a luchador. Guerrero would credit the time with helping him learn ring psychology, but recalls it could be a tough time as he dealt with the substandard rings and a stiff style from opponents. His work alongside Art Barr as Los Gringos Locos would elevate him into one of Mexico's greatest heels. Work in New Japan Pro Wrestling as the Masked Black Tiger and a run in ECW provided him with further seasoning. As WCW expanded its programming, Eddie was signed to WCW along with Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko. It was the beginning of national attention mixed with the frustration of being pushed to the top. Although Eddie enjoyed some success in WCW, he doubted how far he could go in a company built on big men. His frustration with WCW management worsened his partying ways, damaging his relationship with his wife Vicky Guerrero. Following an argument with Vicky, Eddie hopped into his Trans Am and brought a bottle of Renutrient, a then legal form of GHB designed to promote fat reduction and muscle growth, but was also a powerful intoxicant. Eddie was at a low point in his life and recalled, "I had to try and fill the empty place in my heart with wrestling. I tried to fill it with booze and pills. I was making good money and I was still feeling empty. I was miserable in WCW. I knew I wasn't going to go any higher there, and jumping to the WWE hadn't even crossed my mind. I couldn't stop wondering, is this it? Is this what I worked my whole life for?" Clearly, Eddie downed 5 caps of Renutrient. Knowing that I was going to fall asleep, if I make it home, I thought, then I make it home. If I don't, that's okay too. Following a shower, Eddie woke up in the hospital with a fractured collarbone, compressed discs in his spine, a broken right hip socket, and a left calf that was shredded so bad the doctors couldn't reattach nerves and ligaments in them. Guerrero was told he was lucky to be alive and might never walk again, let alone wrestle. The police believe Guerrero was driving his Navas at 120 miles an hour when he tried to negotiate a curve, sending his car into the end. Out of control. Doctors credit Guerrero's remarkable physical condition with saving his life and allowing him to recover. Nonetheless, the road to recovery was long and hard, and Eddie's reliance on painkillers turned into a horrendous addiction. Medical personnel told Guerrero to take a year off from wrestling so he could focus on rehabilitating his injuries. Instead, Eddie got back into the ring, relying on painkillers and alcohol to lessen his pain. Eddie was given another opportunity to succeed in WCW. Eric Bischoff honoured his contract, even though he could have let him go following his accident. His reliance on drugs became worse, and at one point, he tried to quit Renutrient cold turkey, a move that landed him in hospital as his body went through catastrophic withdrawal. Eddie was hospitalized but returned to wrestling once again. At one point, a doctor put him on methadone in order to stabilize him. However, when Eddie mixed it with alcohol, he found himself in the hospital again, this time with a collapsed lung. His body a wreck, Guerrero's wrestling career was faring no better in WCW. Finally, an opportunity arose for him to jump ship to the WWE. Although Eddie had a no-compete clause, a WCW road agent, rumored to be the late Mike Graham, threatened to cut his throat if he quit, which allowed Eddie to threaten a lawsuit if he was not released. Eddie, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn all jumped to the WWE together as the Radicals. Despite hurting his elbow in a WWE debut match, Guerrero was able to get over, building himself up in the Radicals, then forming a well-received partnership with the ninth wonder of the world, China. Eddie's personal life was a mess, and it was affecting his professional life as well. While some of the Guerrero's friends supported him, others distanced themselves, knowing it was up to him to turn his life around. With Vicky threatening divorce, things reached a turning point when Jim Ross was informed of Guerrero's problems and gave him an ultimatum: get help or find employment elsewhere. The WWE offered to pay for Eddie's rehabilitation at Atlanta's Talbot Recovery Campus, considered the best in the nation. However, Guerrero refused to leave his family, telling JR his wife was divorcing him. Guerrero recalls how Ross told him, "Well, do you blame her? You're a fucking drug addict." 4 months at Talbot gave Guerrero a better understanding of his addiction problem, but sobriety was not to last. Bad spending habits forced Eddie to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection, and he remained estranged from Vicky. Eventually, he relapsed, leading to a drunk incident where he rammed a security gate and was arrested. Vince McMahon made the decision to fire him, to send a message to the rest of the roster that such behavior would not be tolerated. Although he had lost his job in the WWE, Guerrero had finally reached rock bottom and turned to God for help. Unsure of what his future held, he began working the independent circuit, working to much smaller crowds than he was used to, but putting on outstanding performances and helping to get rising stars such as Low Ki and CM Punk over. Guerrero would work Ring of Honor's debut show, lending much credibility to the nascent promotion. Eddie's work was well received by the fans, who were amazed at his comeback and his willingness to work hard in front of small crowds. Eddie's efforts didn't go unnoticed in the WWE either. The WWE contacted Eddie about returning to work for the promotion. Although they were only offering him a base salary, there was the chance to make much more should he prove himself capable of maintaining a healthy personal and professional life. He returned to the promotion with much to prove, and prove he did. After time as a singles wrestler, Eddie formed a tag team with his nephew Chavo Guerrero Jr. Known as Los Guerreros, the duo got over with fans thanks to their "we lie, we cheat, we steal" approach to wrestling, providing laughs in and out of the ring. Over time, Eddie had proved he had done more than just return to the WWE. He was better than ever and shooting his way towards the top. Even Eddie had no idea how much the WWE believed in him. That is until he was told about being considered for the WWE Championship. On February 15th, 2004, Eddie defeated WWE Champion Brock Lesnar at No Way Out, winning the promotion's top prize. The following month at Wrestlemania 20, he celebrated his friend Chris Benoit's World Heavyweight Championship win alongside him. Guerrero would tell England's The Sun newspaper, "You know how sometimes a dream seems too far-fetched and unreachable? Well, WrestleMania 20 was one of the moments when I realized that dream. Not only for myself, but also for Chris. Breaking that mold of giants was great. I'll take a pat on the back for that one. Being a smaller wrestler is something I've been dealing with all my life. But it's not the size of the dog in the fight that counts. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And that's what I'd say about me and Chris." However, Eddie's time at the top would test his sobriety as never before. The role as WWE Champion proved taxing for Eddie, whether it was the pressure of performing at the top, the road life, or the added fame. Working on SmackDown, Latino Heat had to work alongside a roster harmed by Brock Lesnar's departure and Kurt Angle's injury. With SmackDown ratings down and pay-per-view numbers dropping, Guerrero could not help but feel he was responsible for some, if not all of the plunge, as he was the SmackDown brand's top wrestler. He fought hard to avoid a relapse, knowing how much he'd done to turn his life around. Despite a long estrangement, he and Vicky had repaired their marriage, even renewing their vows. In the end, Eddie decided to give up the WWE Championship, dropping the belt to JBL as he was unwilling to let anything harm the life he'd repaired. On the 13th November 2005, Chavo Guerrero Jr. discovered his uncle's unconscious body at Minneapolis Marriott City Center after Eddie failed to answer a wake-up call from the hotel's staff. Chavo attempted CPR, but paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. The wrestling world was shocked. Eddie Guerrero had turned his life around, and yet he was dead at the age of 38 years old. What had happened? An autopsy revealed that Eddie died from natural causes, caused by arteriosclerotic heart disease.
Given Eddie's years of substance abuse, questions arose of how much, if any, of it contributed to his heart disease.
Over time,
Steroid use would factor in as playing a possible role into Guerrero's death.
In 2007, Sports Illustrated broke the story.
Along with the estrogen blocker anastrozole, a drug commonly taken by men on steroids to prevent developing breast tissue, on November 2, 2005, just 11 days before he died of heart disease. His death would impact a number of WWE superstars, but not so much as Chris Benoit, who was a close friend to Eddie and relied on him for counsel, a counsel he could no longer rely on. Some believe
Guerrero's death contributed to Benoit's downward spiral, and while we may never know, it is a factor to consider. His death also led to the WWE wellness policy. The signature pharmacy scandal would lead to questions about the effectiveness of the wellness policy, but the wellness policy remains in effect and has been expanded over the years. Despite an indisputable legacy in the ring as one of wrestling's best and most beloved performers, Eddie Guerrero's young death is a warning to others about the permanent effects of substance abuse. Did Eddie's past drug use, including steroid use, contribute to his young death? Speculating on Eddie's lifestyle and young death, it's easy to conclude that even a return to sobriety can carry consequences for the rest of one's life. Well guys, that wraps up episode 42 of Behind the Titantron. Comment down below on the video, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe even. But as always, I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.